Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York, where this little show is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And we've got a real great show for you today. We're going to talk about the difference between parimutuel wagering and traditional sports betting wagering as we take a look at the Kentucky Derby that's happening tomorrow, and I'll have a wager of my own on the Derby, and you can follow along if you'd like. And we're going to, of course, do our Friday night Major League Baseball previews and our Friday and Saturday NHL playoffs. And as we always do, why don't we start by updating our bankroll? And as you can see here, we had a winning week. I'm kind of angry at myself for not following my own advice that I give here on this show. I played 3 baseball plays instead of 2 I like to do usually, and I felt there was a lot of value on the board last Friday. But I talk about being selective, and instead of doing my 2 best plays, I did my 3 best plays. And we had 2 losses and a win in baseball. We had the Diamondbacks winning for us with a profit of $16. And then we had the Mariners minus 1.5. They won in extra innings, but they didn't cover, minus 16. And then we had the Giants also lost to the Yankees, and that was minus 16. But we did win both of our hockey bets. We had the Sharks money line, and that won for us, plus $13. And the Blue Jackets playing real well, although they lost last night, winning for us, plus $20. So that was a net profit, I believe, of $17, making the new bankroll 503. And our bet size, dividing by 30, as we always do, our bet size going forward will be $17. But the point I want to make about that is if I had stuck to my 2 wagers instead of 3, I would have saved myself an extra bet, and that bet would be in my bankroll right now, but it's not. So I need to continue practicing being selective. So that's it for updating the bankroll. Let's get into the sportsbook lesson, and we're going to talk about parimutuel wagering. And if you say to yourself, well, what is parimutuel wagering? It's the style of wagering that you encounter at the racetrack if you bet the horses. And betting on horses is not as popular as it used to be. Here in the Finger Lakes, we have, obviously, Finger Lakes Racetrack. We have Vernon Downs over by the Turning Stone. We have Batavia Downs in Batavia. And if you go to the track, whether you're wagering on races right there in front of you or wagering on races that are happening in other parts of the country, when you make wagers at a horse track, you're doing a parimutuel wager. And horse betting is different than sports betting. What the horse tracks do is they pool all the money together for each type of bet. So you have like win, place, and show at the horse track. We'll stick with the win for now. All the win bets for a particular race, they pool all that money together, and then they take their cut out of that pool. And I want to say, depending which track you go to, which state you're in, that takeout would be 11 to 15% of the pool. So what happens is they pool all the win money together, they take out their 15%, and then whatever's left over, they pay out based upon the number of tickets that were sold for the winning horse. So, in an extreme example, if only one person bet on the right horse, they would win the entire win pool on their wager. But assuming, several, dozens or 100 people pick the correct winning horse in that race, their win is divided up by, the size of their wager relative to the pool that's left over after the takeout is removed. So as you can see, I've written here, horse tracks take their cut out of the pool of wagers versus each ticket. In sports betting, you get, when you go to the counter and you buy your ticket, you get the odds that's written on your ticket. They don't change. When you go to the a counter at the horse track, you get a win ticket for $2 on number 7. It doesn't say how much your payout's going to be. You have to wait until the race is over until they post the payouts on the board, because those odds fluctuate constantly because the pool is growing, and so are the wagers, the number of wagers on the 7 horse, the number of wagers on the 3 horse. That changes what the payouts are going to be. And that's why you see, you look at what's called the tote board, and you see the odds change, as the minutes get closer and closer to the race. So horse tracks, as we said, pay out wagers proportional to the number of tickets sold in each pool. So your payout is, if the fewer the people that bet on the same horse you did, if you won your wager, the higher your payout's going to be. But if a lot of people bet on the horse, then the lower the payout is going to be. So I have comparative examples of horse versus sports betting, and I've picked, 2 specific examples and tried to compare them relative to the bet size. And so you have sports betting. If you take the New York Giants +3 -110 odds, you bet $10 on that bet. If you won the bet, you would win $9.19 on top of getting your $10 back. And payout is the same no matter how many people bet on the Giants. So if you go up to the sports book on a Tuesday or on a Friday, if the odds are the same, Giants +3 -110, everybody that bets that number is getting the same payout, no matter how close to the game or how far away from the game you're betting. So if I go to the horse track and I bet horse number 5 to win, and I bet $10, I'm betting 10 to win. I have no idea. If I go 15 minutes before the race starts, maybe it says it's 10 to 1 to win. But by the time the race starts, that may have dropped down to 2 to 1. It may have gone up to 50 to 1 if somebody put a big bet on another horse. So payout is dependent upon the total wagers on the number 5 horse. We don't know what the payout's going to be. It depends on how many other people are betting the same horse that you are. So in horse racing, we look at the tote board to see up to the minute odds, but the true payouts are not known until at least after the race starts, but usually they're not known until the race is over. So, you're to get the closest odds to the true payout odds, you want to place your bet right before the race starts. And you see a lot of people rush to place that bet right, 2 minutes before the race starts, 1 minute before post time. That's a dangerous thing to do, but it does give you a better snapshot of what the true odds will be. So it's really kind of an art as much of a science when you bet on horses. And I used to bet on horses a lot with regularity. And 4 or 5 years ago, it still is actually very easy to bet on horse races around the country. It's legal, and you can use Batavia Bets, which is part of our OTB system here in the Finger Lakes. But they have multiple websites where you can register and place your wagers for horse tracks around the country. There were some of the smaller tracks that I really enjoyed wagering with, like Sunray Park, which I believe is in New Mexico. They have racing seasons and schedules, all these different tracks. And, the smaller ones would have the same, a group of horses that would run several times a year. And if you followed them and you got to know them, you got to know if you had, some advantageous bets to make. But what the New York State, the NYRA, the New York State Racing Association, did about 3 or 4 years ago was they added a 5%. I'm going off on a tangent here. They added a 5% takeout on all online wagers. So unless you were going directly to the track, like if you went directly to Finger Lakes Racetrack here in Canandaigua, you were getting an extra 5% taken off all your winning bets. And that was just too much for me, and I stopped wagering on horses with regularity. But I still enjoy the big races, and occasionally we'll pop a wager on a big horse race, and I'll have one picked out for you today. So let's do a quick look at the Derby this Saturday. We have 19 horses expected to run, and we're expecting a very wet track. It's wet today for the Oaks, and it should be wet tomorrow for the Derby. And since 2013, since they've changed the formula for qualifying for the Kentucky Derby, the favorite has won every year. Whether that's just coincidence or not, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you that I often bet against the favorite in the Derby, and here's why. Number one is the Derby is for 3-year-old horses, and they will never run another race before or after the Derby that has as many horses in the field. You're looking at, they had 21 entries and 2 have been scratched, so we're expecting 19 horses to run. And you just do not know how the horses are going to react with a field of that size. Now, you're looking at a muddy, wet track tomorrow, so certain horses are going to obviously excel in that condition. And it will be up to you as a handicapper to find out which horses are the ones that are expected to do well in the wet weather. Now, there are certain trainers and certain jockeys that have had past experience as winning riders and winning trainers in the Kentucky Derby, and the top 3 favorites in the field are all Bob Baffert trained horses. He's won several derbies, and his horses are expected to do well again. Obviously, I expect 1 or 2 of those horses to be in the mix. Whether they finish first or not is a whole different story. So with the overall favorite being scratched, and 2 really good post positions being scratched, the favorite is 5-1, which is a very high odds for a favorite. Usually they're 3-1 or 2-1 or 9-2 maybe even. But this means that even if the favorites do come in, the betting should be spread out and the payout should be pretty up there comparative to past years. Although I do believe last year the trifecta and the superfecta were very high. The trifecta was over $1,000, and the superfecta was a couple of grand easily. So this is something that can, the Derby is attractive to even experienced sports bettors because there's a whole bunch of public money people that just like to bet on this one race, or they just like to bet on the Triple Crown races, and also there's such a huge field that it's going to force the true favorites to pay out probably higher than they normally would in an 8 or 10 horse race. So I'm going to show you real quick the Derby horses. This is straight from the Kentucky Derby website, and you'll see that Improbable is at 6-1, the horse number 5, and we have let's see. The 11 and 12 horses have been scratched. Omaha Beach was the favorite. And then you have the 16 and 17 horses. You might not be able to see them on the screen here because it doesn't scroll down any further. But they are also 5-1 and 6-1, and they are Bob Baffert horses. So I did a little research this morning, and I'm going to show you when I do my picks which horses I like out of the 21 listed there. Obviously, 11 and 12 will not be racing, so those will be scratched off. But of the other ones that are remaining, I'll have 5 or so horses that I really like, and I'll share those with you at the end. But as far as handicapping, my personal handicapping tips for you, if you're interested in making wagers tomorrow, is go by horses' performance this year only. Horses are trained very different, and obviously young horses, their physiology changes. Go by their results for this year only if you're handicapping on past performance. And they, of course, you want to consider to see how they have run in their largest fields and at that distance. I believe the Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles. Yes, 1.25 miles, and the Pimlico is 1.8 miles. So, if a horse hasn't run that far or even close to it, it's really kind of a question mark. So, do your own handicapping, have fun with it. Throw a few dollars down on a horse you like and enjoy the afternoon and have a good time with it. So, we will we'll move right along to doing our baseball, and we've got almost a full schedule of Major League Baseball today. I think there's only 14 games, but we've got the Cardinals. I have them favored by 0.63 runs, plus even money at the Cubs, minus 108. Obviously good value there. Might not be the best one on the board. We have the Twins plus 140 at the Yankees, favored by 1.1 runs, minus 152. The Yanks could be value on the run line there. So we've got the A's plus 104 at the Pirates. Pirates at home, favored by 0.53 runs, minus 113, pretty good value. The Rays favored by 1.7 runs, minus 222. At the Orioles, plus 203. These are teams that play each other a lot. That there's not much value in taking the Rays. There's more value in taking the Orioles, maybe even at plus 1.5. The Nationals plus 153 at the Phillies, favored by 0.4 runs, minus 167. Not really any value there. We have the Royals plus 138 at the Tigers, favored by 0.83 runs, minus 149. That seems to be priced pretty appropriately. Not much to get out of that one. And the Mariners plus 129 at the Indians, 0.1 run favorites, minus 139. Obviously, the value's on the Mariners there. My model likes the Indians just a little bit, but if that was 0.1 in the other direction, that would certainly look like something that I might take on the Mariners. And let's finish up the Friday night. In Major League Baseball, we have the Braves minus 155 at the Marlins. We have my model likes this even Steven, 0.00 runs plus 143. So obviously the Marlins at home in what my model says is a pick'em game getting plus 143. That's value. So that is probably going to end up definitely on my list. The Giants plus 136 at the Reds, 0.2 run favorites, minus 148. Again, the value is on the Giants there, but you would like to see the model favoring them. So we'll probably pass on that game. The Blue Jays, 0.23 runs favorites, plus 134 at the Rangers, minus 145. The Rangers are kind of under the radar. They haven't played consistently well, but I feel like that's a team that if they can string together and their pitching can hold out for the rest of the season, they have a shot at making the playoffs. But the Blue Jays, have some really young, up-and-comer kids. They're just not a complete team. But, you got to remember, even a bad team is going to go 71, 91 on a season. So they're going to go 7-9. That's one game under 500 as opposed to 8-8. Red Sox favored by 1.47 runs, minus 184. At the White Sox, plus 169. There's no value on this game. Chris Sale going for the Red Sox. He has been a mystery this season. I assume he'll get better as time goes on, but if he's rested properly, maybe he's got a bad elbow. I don't know, but there's no value taking the Red Sox here or the run line here, so that's a pass for me. The Mets favored by 0.23 runs, Plus 121, Steven Matz going tonight at the Brewers, minus 131. The Brewers are one of those teams that likes to put up runs in bunches, but some days they just don't get it together. I also feel like the Brewers, have are lacking a little bit in defense. The Mets are actually a pretty good defensive team. So I like the Mets here. Diamondbacks, minus 104 at the Rockies, favored by 0.03 runs, minus 104. It's a pick'em game that's priced as a pick'em game. And that's, Coors Field for you. And then the Dodgers, 1.17 runs favored, minus 153 at the Padres, plus 141. I believe Kershaw is going tonight. I'm not sold on Kershaw. There is some value in taking the Dodgers on the run line, but I've made 4 or 5 bets on the Dodgers in the last month, and it has been super disappointing for me. They're very inconsistent offensively. I just can't, in good conscience, take them on the run line tonight. So that's the Major League Baseball game previews for Friday. We've got some good value. There's 3 or 4 games that I consider to be really good value based on my model. So we'll see which ones ends up on the list. But before we get to my picks, we're going to take a look at the Friday and Saturday playoff matchups. And the first one, they got 2 on Friday. The first one is the Islanders at the Hurricanes, and Hurricanes lead that series 3-0. The Islanders' goaltending has not played bad. They have been outplayed. The Carolina defense has outplayed them on the offensive end of the Islanders' rink, so to speak. Basically, when the Islanders push into the offensive zone, it's like Carolina knows exactly what they're going to do. And that means, to me, that the coach or coaches have not made adjustments, the Islanders. Now, the Islanders are down 3-0. It's very unlikely they will come back. I think it's only happened like 4 times in the NHL playoffs that a team's come back from 3-0. They could win tonight, but in elimination games, because it's all or nothing, the empty net goalie situation is a high leverage situation for more goals. So this game is over-under set at 5, and I think it's a pretty heavy bet to go over 5 here. You might even want to bet the 5.5 because if the Islanders get down early, they have no choice but to go completely offensive and try to catch up and have an up and down game, and that would lead to a lot of goals. And if they're behind late, they're going to pull their goalie very early, and if they're down 2 goals or maybe even 3 goals, they're still going to pull their goalie. So we're looking at the over there. So the Stars at the Blues, and this series is very even and very competitive. And that number for me, without even looking, even both of these goalies are very similar statistically. And you look at that number, and the Stars plus 136 is just such a huge number that you really can't pass that up. The Blues could win this game. The Blues have been great on the road until they met the Stars, and it's been split and split. So the Stars could easily come back and take this. Plus 136 is a great number. I like that a lot. And then on Saturday, you have the Blue Jackets and the Bruins. That series is tied 2-2, as is the Stars and the Blues, if I didn't say that before. The Blue Jackets could easily come back and win Game 5. In the back of my mind, I feel like Pastrnak is hurt. He's not 100%. He's played, he did have a goal and an assist, I believe, in the last game, but he has not played very well in transition at all, and he's really struggled on the point on the power play. I feel like there's a reason why he can't skate up and down as well. I don't know what it is. But the Blue Jackets, plus 120 is kind of meh for me. If it was plus 125, I would really hop on that because these teams are very even, and the home ice advantage in Boston is not that big of a deal. So we'll see how these teams, their lineups shake out. But I'm not sold on either side yet. There's just not enough value there. And then the Avalanche at the Sharks. I feel like the Sharks are due to have a comeback game. This series, I believe, is also tied 2-2, and Sharks just lost 3-0 last night in Colorado. I feel like this can be a reversal where the Sharks actually can win by a couple of goals at home. I feel like they do have really enthusiastic home ice fans. It's really up to Martin Jones to step up his game. You've got most of your defense available. You've got Vlasic and Carlson and Burns, and they're missing Pavelski and Donskoy, two of their forwards. So we'll see how if either one of those guys is ready to go. But there's not value in taking the money line on either side, and most of these games have gone over, over 5.5 and 6-7 goals. And I feel like if there's going to be another game that's like 6 or 7 goals, that taking a team on the puck line minus 1.5 would be the way to go here. So that's where the value lies in that game, but I'm not sure I really like the odds here. So we are going to wrap it up with my picks. And I've got 2 baseball plays for you on Friday night. I'm going to take the Yankees at home. They seem to have been putting up some good runs on their road trip. Minus 1.5, plus 133. They're playing the Twins. And I'd like them to get back in the swing of things at Yankee Stadium there. And then I'm going to take the Marlins at home on the money line. My model has that as a coin flip game. And as we've talked in our previous lessons, if you're getting a plus 143 odds on a coin flip, you would want to take that every time because you're getting paid out more than what it should be paying out. That's assuming my model has some accuracy, which some people might argue that it doesn't. But division rivals, you get a big price like that, and you like to hop on it. So in the hockey, we got 2 plays, and I'm going to take both Friday games. Islanders and Canes over 5, minus 106. That should be easy peasy. I know that they've had some 2-1 games and a 1-0 game, but it's all hands on deck for the Islanders tonight. So there's going to be a lot of chances taking here, and that should end up in some goals being scored. And then the Stars money line plus 136. Like I said before, that number is just too juicy to pass up. You got 2 teams that are very evenly matched, and if you're getting plus 136 on one of those sides, you would probably want to take that side. And then finally, my Kentucky Derby play, and my favorite bet to make is the 10-cent superfecta. And for those of you that are not familiar with horse bets, of course, your straight bets are win, place, and show. And then you have to pick the first two horses in order as an exacta, to pick the first 3 horses in order as a trifecta, and to pick the first 4 horses in order as a superfecta. And most tracks offer a 10-cent superfecta. So it's a 10-cent bet to pick 4 horses. So you can box 4 horses as 24 bets. So 24 dimes is $2.40. And if you add a 5th horse to your 4-horse box, it becomes a 5 times as many bets. So it becomes a $12 total bet. So 10-cent superfecta box. I'm picking 5 horses, and any 4 of the 5 have to come in the first 4 slots of the race in order for me to win. It's a fun bet, doesn't cost a lot of money, and can pay off hundreds or even thousands of dollars if it comes in. And my horses, I'm going to read the names here. It's obviously 3, 5, 8, 9, and 16. So we have By My Standards, Improbable, one of the favorites, Tacticus, Plus Q Parfait, which is the biggest money winner of all the horses that are running, which I found very interesting. And then the 16-horse Game Winner, another Baffert horse. And I left the 17 out, which is Roadster, which is the 3rd Baffert horse. And horses from way outside that part of the gate very rarely end up in contention at the end. A lot can happen. It's a long race, and a lot of these horses have not raced that far before. So there's some strategy and a little bit of luck involved, and that's why we enjoy placing our wagers on it. But that's my Kentucky Derby pick, so we'll see how that pans out. I'm not counting that towards the bankroll, by the way, but just my sports bets towards the bankroll. And that's going to do it for our show. So what I'm going to do is play the outro music for you, and I hope we get some winners and enjoy the Kentucky Derby. Take care, everybody.